Good evening. Good evening. I spoke before the timer started. Good evening. Um, to whenever you're watching this, whenever you're tuning in. Hi. How are you? I hope you're doing okay. Um, I'm coming here feeling a bit ill prepared and extremely sensitive as the ending of the week brought the death to someone, brought a death to someone who um, I don't even know what to say about it, but I know that we're all feeling it as a country. Um, yeah, I know that we're all feeling it as a country, as it is that we all seem to be tapping into the understanding that it didn't really have to happen, that it was too soon. In general, there were a lot of deaths this week in the South African acting community. There was a previous actress who had passed on, who I unfortunately didn't catch the name of, but I have seen that there's been a lot of death. Um, and a lot of grief. Essentially, this Pisces season is really it's really going off. It's really Pisces is really Piscesing. um, and because of the weight of the feelings of it all, I'm feeling a bit. I don't know if I've mentioned it already, but I feel ill prepared. I feel like I have little to share in this moment because of how I really intend on coming here with motivation and with something uplifting, with hope. But and it's not to say that I feel hopeless right now, but I do feel the grief. And I felt it for a few days. Outside of being aware of who died and all of it, there's just been something in the air that really came in this week. So I hope I can do this reading justice. And to anyone tuning in, whenever it is that you do, I really hope that I can adequately be of service. But I mostly just intend on connecting on this raw frequency that I'm on now because with where we're at this point, there's no use in performing or pretending or pushing or doing too much, which is actually part of the channeled message that I had for this evening. Um, there are, specifically if you are a Virgo placement, there's so many of you trying to push and trying to like do more than you have capacity for. But at the same time, I'm also seeing that you're all, and this isn't just Virgo, I mean, I think this is really all of us. We're all reaching, like I'd mentioned last week, our breaking points. And by reaching our breaking points, we're finally arriving to a level of honesty and vulnerability that allows us to just be real and come to the party of, look, I tried, I don't have much left. Or I'm tired. I'm just too tired and I cannot show up in the way that I usually have before. And what I'm getting is that a lot of people, when they show up that way, there's this tinge of guilt where they feel a little bit like, oh, but I wish it were different. I wish I could show up right now, but I actually can't. Or or you think that as you're laying out this statement that I cannot show up anymore, I don't have anything left, you think that, oh, there is actually more. There's maybe your inner voice is doing a thing where it's saying, um, you're not being honest about, you're not working hard enough, or you're not being honest about your ability to show up. You can still do better. Um, no, you can't. And you can trust yourself verbalizing the honesty of your exhaustion. You can trust yourself when you say, I am too tired to show up right now. Um, You can trust your level of vulnerability. We're all really trying our best here. There's nothing more that we can do. There's really nothing more that we can do. And this is a repeated message that's shown up over the past few weeks, that please rest if you need to rest. Slow down if you need to slow down. Stop altogether if you feel like you need to stop. You're not going to win an award for being the strongest. You're not going to win an award for showing up beyond beyond your limits. There's no prize for that. And even the because I imagine that maybe if you are someone who gains some kind of pleasure out of pushing your limits and making yourself uncomfortable, I imagine if you're that type of person, then that is your reward, knowing that you could do it, knowing that you're strong. But there is much greater substance in being able to show up, to say, I am too tired to show up. There is much greater value in that versus pushing yourself and making yourself uncomfortable and driving yourself beyond your breaking point so that you actually break. We are already all breaking. It's already happening. So to think that you're going to gain anything from just doing too much and being strong and pushing through, it's a fallacy. It's a lie that your inner voice is telling yourself. And that inner voice has been programmed by this false system that is crumbling more and more every day, which is another part, I think, of the channeled message. These are all things that I'm pulling out right now. Another part of the channel message that needs to come today, that we need to keep remembering, that's there every time, every week, every time I show up for these readings. We are in a world that is literally turning to sand. It's turning to ash inside our hands. We are watching it all slip through our fingers. Every single minute of every single day, this world is crumbling. And we're really trying to hold it together. Really? You're really trying to hold it together in these intense times of uncertainty? You're really trying to push through and push your limits and be strong? No. 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 I honestly think that trying to be strong right now is incredibly stupid. No offense to you if that is something that you live by. But trying to be strong right now is not it. Don't try to be strong. Don't try to be anything that you're not feeling as a truth within your body. I actually posted this on my story a few days ago to say that but I also said it in the reading last week, that we're all better off. We're all better off honest and authentic than we are whatever else we may think is what suits the moment. Like, just, yeah, stop trying to think from your head. Release it. And if you can, and not if you can, it's not an option. You need to learn how to breathe and operate from your body, from your center, from your heart, from your gut. It's time. It's time. Other notes that I have here are the power of spoken word and being grateful for what you want right now, how that changes your frequency. And this speaks more on how I have not been, I mean, I don't know. I can't really say that. Yeah, I feel like I keep saying this. This reading this evening is going to be a very huge extension of what I read for last week, so that I don't know if I'll offer anything new. It'll just be an unpacking of what I had from last week. And I would like to touch on what I mentioned in the beginning of the reading, but I'll save that for the end because it's very heavy and I don't want to drop the bomb and set that kind of tone. However, on that note, it's been, as I said last week, a huge struggle to grip and to hold on to joy and happiness. And I know that the suggestion is always, you can drop into the bliss of the moment, drop into your body, just like I mentioned. It's hard though, it's very difficult. But if nothing else works, full else fails, I have turned to affirming the things that I want, affirming that my dreams have come true through being grateful for them in the moment and including that in part of my morning prayer. So I'll say, I am grateful for these things as I'll start off by saying, I am grateful. I will begin affirming my gratitude for these things as a desire for them to happen. And I will be saying them as if they happen. So I'll actually verbalize this because my logical mind genuinely struggles with what I've just said, genuinely struggles with the statement of being grateful for what you want right now as if you already have it. My logical mind very much struggles with that idea. However, it's something that I've seen as a common thread for people who are currently living in abundant material wealth. Not just rich, but people who are acting out and living and seeing and experiencing abundance. They all seem to be operating on this level of being able to be grateful for what you want as if it's already happening. Like they're really able to step out of the present weight, heaviness, grief, misery, rage, etc. Which extends on what I spoke to a few readings ago, talking about how that kind of behavior almost seems avoidant. Being grateful for your desires and dreams having come true and completely blocking out the current state of grief and misery in the world, how it seems avoidant. So I don't know. I'm juggling between the two. But I will say that when I do practice that and when I affirm it out loud at my altar in front of a candle, and I preface what I say with the fact that I know that these things are not true right now, but I am feeling grateful and affirming these things as if they are true right now. Verbalizing that preface, it helps. It helps to change the frequency. But I will be real though, it doesn't last for long. It lasts for a few hours, and then I guess I would have to like re redo the ritual, which in itself is really hard. I mean, how many hours do we have in a day, realistically speaking? Um, we can't all commit. I mean, even me with all the hours I have and all the free time, I really struggle to commit every hour to being in peace, to being in my body, in my breath, etc., etc. It's really hard right now. It's really hard right now. Hey Z, hey, how are you? How are you feeling? Um, the next statement I have is part of what I've titled, being that everything Piscean is extra. We're feeling Pisces energy on such an extreme level right now. And like I mentioned before in previous readings, I'm a Pisces rising and I'm still like, so this should be my territory. I also have Saturn in Pisces, which I guess actually feeds to why everything is just hectic. But outside of that, it's really hectic. It's really, really hectic. This Piscean energy is really, it's really intense. Intense isn't my favorite word. It's really, really intense right now. I didn't expect it. I didn't think it would be this hectic, and this week especially really just it really just but while everything about endings and perceived suffering and all of that is true, it's also true that the yearning is up full volume, and yearning can be fun in a way that it I believe, for me, for my living experience, it provides some kind of substance. It gives some level of like a fun escapism, not really through drugs. um yeah, not the escaping through drug sense, but the escaping through daydreaming, fantasizing, um delusion, so that our ability to manifest should be really incredible right now. And that if we can just follow those daydreams and those fantasies and fairy tale ideas that we have, they can make us feel good. If we just let it settle in a little bit, and if we sit with it and we genuinely give ourselves a few moments in a day to just daydream and escape into the actual visualizations of our dreams coming true. That's been very fun for me, actually. um Escaping into the mind imagination, and using my mind to actually bring about the feelings of my dreams coming true, putting myself in all of these dreamy situations. Mm, it does help me feel different. Mm, yeah. No, that's it. We are here and we are here now. Thank you, Zanande. That's very accurate. That's exactly it. We're here and we're here now, and there's nowhere else to be. There's nowhere else to be. And mm, the last point I have here is the terror of limitlessness. Let's face it, what actually happens when everything you want happens. So that I took note of that a few days ago, when I was feeling a much different frequency of, where I was feeling the hope and the dream and the daydream of Piscean energy. Today I'm feeling the loss and the grief and the endings and the subconscious of Piscean energy. And even like um the nightmare bit of it, where the subconscious brings out all the shadow stuff. That's what I'm feeling. Mm. That's congratulations. Congratulations. That's all to be said about that. If you've had some manifestations, and I think I also mentioned this in the last reading, if you've had manifestations that come true, it really points to the fact that you are a real ruler of your reality, and you're a master. You're mastering it totally. So congratulations. I'll get into pulling some cards now. I think I've said everything I've needed to say regarding the notes. And mm, yeah, no. Everything else that I'd like to mention, like I said, I'll save it for the end. Um, I'll save it for the end. I'd like to travel through the frequency of Piscean energy and how it begins with, well, in my mind, how I'm processing it, how it begins with the dreaming, the fairy tale, um, the Neptune-ness of it all, but in the lighter sense. And then we can end off with all the heavy stuff. So, what do we have this week for us, this coming week? I really enjoy that some manifestations came true for you. I really appreciate that that's something that happened for you and that it's possible. We have the Empress. I really love how the Empress shows up in this card. I love the baby, the breastfeeding, the tits out, the whiteness, the purity, the beauty. Her stick with the flower. It's very beautiful, very otherworldly. And just looking at the picture, it's very Piscean dreamy to me. Yeah, I think this also ties into, hey, Pearl. Yeah. Long overdue crying session forced itself out of me. I've been freed from my own stubbornness. That's good. I'm glad. I'm really, really glad. And congratulations again. Because the coming of this weekend really did bring that first sentence, the shadow work. Especially from Thursday onwards. And very unfortunately, some people didn't make it. As in, they literally died from having to face their shadows. And there are some people suffering internal deaths right now where the shadow is just too heavy for them to cope, and they're facing the need to change. Something has to change, something has to give, which ties into the second part of the title that I typed in, being life as no one knows it. We're all experiencing changes on on levels that cannot be verbalized. It's very difficult to speak on how heavy everything is and how that heaviness is, and the grief and all of it, all of the feelings, they're forcing you to change. You have to change. You cannot push through this as you have before. You cannot. It's part of what I said in the beginning of the video. It actually kind of irritates me when I hear people talking about how they're trying to push and be strong and whatever. That doesn't help at all, especially not right now. You're trying to push in a changing world where everything is crumbling. What's the point of doing that? So I think that's part of why the Empress fell out. This is the energy that we need to embody right now. More so, because this could be foreign to someone who isn't a mother, but more so to, like, if you can imagine, when you're in this state, when you're in this state of mothering and caring for another life, there's really nothing else that matters but this moment. And on a biological level, when you are a fresh parent, everything about the cells in your body accommodate to the intention that you are trying. Not that you are trying, no, because it's beyond you. It's beyond you. The point is, though, is that you need to trust in the need to luxuriate, if that's even a word. But you need to relax. Basically, you need to relax, max relaxing, beyond anything that you're comfortable with, beyond anything that you've done before. You need to be unsettlingly relaxed and do everything in your power to be comfortable, even if doing that makes you uncomfortable. You have to push yourself. The only ways that are acceptable to push yourself is to push yourself into that comfort and into relaxing. Don't push yourself into, don't be hard. Don't be hard. Don't push yourself into hardness. Don't close off. Open up. Be vulnerable. Show your boobies. I'm going to read the definition of this. Depending on our willingness to be stripped of power and knowing, yes, what is and what should be, there's a gap there, and pure recovery from the shift is the difference between filling that gap and ignoring it. Exactly. That was perfect, actually. That was perfect. Thank you, Zinandi. I don't even need to say anything else. That's it. So for the Empress, we have abundance, womanhood, great prosperity and self awareness that nourishes as well as receives, bountiful fate, and the weaving of destinies one with another, sensuality, fecundity, receptivity, the welcome harvest of love and joy, birthing of new projects, and motherhood. And really the essence of motherhood. That's actually what I've been trying to describe here, and get to the bottom of. I've been trying to describe the essence of motherhood, so that it can be understood even on levels and experiences where you aren't a mother, you may never want to be a mother. This energy can still be understood. I believe that this energy will come to us this week, but we have to open ourselves up to welcome it in. As Ananda mentioned, depending on your willingness to be stripped of power and knowing. We have to be willing to surrender even more. Every week is just a new test of surrender. Every single week. It's like we go through the beginning of the week is filled with a whole bunch of tests and questions. How far are you willing to surrender? What are your limits? Do. And then by the end of the week, the results show themselves. All the questions become so incessant that it makes you explode. I want more clarification on the Empress, though. Pearl, how are you feeling? Everybody in the room, please let me know. Please comment on how this week has been for you. How today has been for you in particular, how this week ended. And like I said, specifically from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and today. And then we have the 10 of rods. Right. We've been doing too much of this. It's too much now. 10 of rods, I believe, represent the same thing across both decks. It's the same kind of energy. There's also in this card the sense of isolation. I think is highlighted in this deck because of how there's like a city, something going on in the background. So it's like he's looking onto that view. Lessons of isolation are so deep, and that's something also very Piscean. Piscean. I don't know how to say that word, but yeah, very Piscean. The lesson and the burden of isolation and needing to learn through that isolation that you're not actually isolated. I'll read on that as well. Building a house or refuge, perseverance against all odds, time to lay down a heavy load, possibly by asking for help. A pattern of taking too much on, it may be useful to look at the possible reasons why. So this is definitely something that I touched on in the beginning of the video in the beginning of this reading, to say that it no longer helps to try to be strong. It doesn't do anything to anyone. You are not being impressive. Like, I know that the previous generation and the way that the world was set up before this, the crumbling world that we're seeing now, programmed into us that it's a lot more noble to push yourself and to be strong against all odds. And while this card did mention perseverance, I don't at all think that that's what's needing to come through here, especially paired with the Empress. Possibly taking on too much. We have been doing too much, way too much. Our universe and our God and our ancestors, they keep trying to tell us you can rely on us. We can rely on them. so extremely that it makes us delusional, Pisces coded. We can be delusional. We can. And at this point and in this season, it's as if they are begging for us to do it. They are begging and pleading. Please rely on us. Please depend on us. Please let us show you how we can show up for you. Make the room. We have to make room for them to show up for us. But there will be no room for them to show up in conditions where we are insisting on being strong, even when we have nothing left, even when we are exhausted, even when we are at our limits. They can't help us if we are pretending, if we're lying, because that is a lie, right? Trying to be strong when you very, very much do not feel strong inside. That's a lie. And you're disrespecting yourself when you do that. And you're disrespecting them. You're disrespecting them. Lots of contradicting messages, though, because I remember talking about, um, I remember posting, tweeting all of that about how insulting it can be to demand ease when you're capable of being strong. And now I'm saying it's insulting to demand strength of yourself when you are being invited into ease. And I think, yeah, that's what's coming this week. We're being invited into ease, the ease of it all, and the vulnerability and the softness, not just womanhood, or motherhood or whatever, the softness, the femininity, the ability to cry when you feel like crying and actually letting it out. Don't try to be strong. Don't try to hold your tears back. Really let it out. So now I'm asking for some solutions, practical energies that we can embody, practical ways that we can embody the solution, that we can embody ways to do this, to get the ease going. And the Five of Rods and the Page of Swords flipped out like this. And normally when the cards flip out like that, I take them upright, but the way that they did it was very clearly reversed. Actually, never mind. So it's these two cards in reverse. I believe that this card, before I get into it, actually, let me just read the interpretation. Let me read the interpretation. It's very interesting energy. The ease makes sense building up to the lunar eclipse. Yeah. Which is going to be very intense. Thank you for reminding me about that. We're in for a very intense week with all the astrological shifts that are happening, because along with the lunar eclipse, there's the full moon. And then a few days after that, I think, or not a few days, maybe like a day after or something, Mercury's going retrograde. So, so it's just, now it's just, hmm, there's so much going on. There is so much energetically going on. I feel, I don't even know. And I've said this before. I can say that I feel very exhausted, like physically exhausted. I used to feel exhausted on like a spiritual level where it was like my bones were tired, but now it's like I just feel like sleeping a lot more, which I guess is a random channeling. If you can, try to sleep earlier, give yourself more naps. Um I've got the Five of Swords in reverse. The Five of Rods in reverse first speaks of hidden agendas, generating strife, hostility, and inability to cooperate or see a wider picture, aggression, territorial conflicts, fear of loss of control. Okay. And this, Um, this spoke of our need. Okay, actually, just the bigger picture here is that we need to address, like Zinande said, actually, yeah, exactly like Zinande said. That was a really brilliant channeling that you gave. I'm really grateful for that. I'm going to sit on that even beyond this reading, depending on our willingness to be stripped of power and knowing. Being stripped of power and knowing. I think that the idea that she brought forth in that sentence, the idea of being stripped of power and knowing, it makes us hostile, right? And very aggressive. And a lot of anger can come out of this. Okay, I'll speak for myself here. When I have moments of not knowing and I turn to God and I demand an answer, and God almost, or my ancestors, the response, the spiritual response is some kind of cackle back, like you don't even know. That anger, that generates an anger within me. That generates an anger. And maybe that is actually where the rage is coming from within me and within any of you who may relate. A lot of rage and the fear of loss of control. Territorial conflicts, I think, may even tie into our deep attachment to life as we know it and how that is changing so drastically that we do need to surrender to the control. We do need to surrender. I feel like I'm underwater today. I feel like I'm underwater today. So I'm sorry if I'm channeling slow and with a little bit of deadness, kind of just a weighing down. Hey, thank you for joining. I'm so I'm so happy. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing this moment with me. The Page of Swords in reverse speaks of someone who feels incomplete without a cause or who likes to point out how committed and admirable they are by the worthy causes they support. Pushing endurance too far. Oh my God. Tendency to see life as a constant battle. I feel like I'm being dragged on a personal level because of how I was so sure. I'm still trying to work through this personal lesson. I was I was raised with the idea that the element of suffering is how you know that you're doing work. If there's no suffering and if it's too easy, then even if you do get anything, you don't deserve it. I actually remember mentioning this last week. I've been needing to say these affirmations on a daily basis and include them in my prayer. That actually came from having a conversation with ChatGPT, which I don't know, is its own thing because apparently ChatGPT isn't exactly environmentally friendly, but it gave me some really banging affirmations, specifically with regards to affirming that I am allowed to find joy and ease in every moment. I've had to affirm that almost every day this week. And it's been very difficult because I have been convincing myself that uh, all this max relaxing, all this intense relaxing that I've been gunning for, that I've been given sometimes, makes me undeserving of anything of value. So I guess that's what we'll be facing this week. This has to be dropped. This idea that suffering, um that anything that we deserve comes from real suffering, it has to stop. It has to stop. And the belief that we're going to be suffering forever, because I also feel like with how long everything's been feeling so heavy, it feels like it's never going to end. It feels like it's never going to end. And maybe it's because I am trying to find a specific, or I'm holding on to a specific idea of how this suffering is supposed to end. Or it's the idea of like, even the way I keep repeating in these readings that I post on social media. I keep saying, and it's also something that we've all been saying in community, that like just the never endingness of healing, and how there's always something to heal from. There's something about that that just holds a lot of suffering in it. And I don't know, maybe there's something that needs to be reworked about that. So we have these issues, we have these things. And what I asked was to give a practical embodiment. I asked for answers regarding a practical embodiment on of the solutions that we have, but I still got more about the layers that we're trying to unpack, which is just, ugh, it's just so much work. There's a lingering skepticism that hinders our sense of deserving, especially when we're being told to rest and release control. Yeah. We work to the point of convincing ourselves that the only way to receive is to work. Yes. Yes. Hmm. I'm remembering the statement that I received from a reader named Destiny. Her YouTube channel is called Queen Cup Tarot. She doesn't really post much anymore. She's more on Patreon, but she did mention once about the the risk of turning healing into the risk of being a slave to healing, and turning healing into something oppressive, where you begin to be you begin to be so tied to the narratives of needing to heal and love and light and all of that stuff, that you don't allow yourself to be a human being. And that's actually, yeah, that's something I posted about this week, that, and I mentioned in the beginning of the reading, we're better off just being, and yeah, actually, yes, thank you for that. Thank you. We're better off just being real about all of this. And that's how we achieve the softness. It's just being authentic and honest with ourselves in each moment that shows up. So I guess because everybody here is pretty self aware, we need to let that go for a bit and allow ourselves to be angry. I think there's something about this rage that needs to be released and let out, like actually be angry, actually be crazy. I don't know, be a little bit unreasonable sometimes. But I don't know how this is supposed to, I'm still not clear on how this is supposed to be practically embodied. Like the cards have fall out. Yeah, thank you. Okay. 7 of Swords. And if I think about the 7 of Swords in the other deck, the one where the man is carrying the swords away, the way I interpret that energy speaks of being a little bit selfish, a little bit self-absorbed, and strategic. So strategic that it may present that it may look like you're being selfish. Um, but in this deck, it does speak of a different story, where I believe it's reference to you looking out at the terrain and seeing what you have to work with, Um, it also brings in this card attention to the fact that there are hidden, these are supposed to be hidden. So you have no idea of the kind of tools and things that you have to work with, and how this terrain is actually, it speaks of how this is a difficult, there's a difficult journey ahead essentially, and you need to see what you have to work with. It's almost like playing Minecraft, and how in Minecraft you have to, like, if you need a bed, you have to kill a sheep, and then you have to shed it of the wool, and then you have to get some wood, and you have to, the work of actually creating. But like we've mentioned and we've been talking about, it mustn't look like work anymore. It mustn't be laborious. I've been saying that word right. It mustn't feel like labor. Let me read the Seven of Swords. We have tools hidden from us. We still have a lot of subconscious work to unearth. And the subconscious work that we're unearthing is going to lead us here. It's going to lead us to be able to, I think, okay, I see. So this is actually what we are meant to be embodying. This is what we're supposed to be embodying. And the rest of the cards are things that are standing in the way between us and the immediate embodiment of the Empress. Yeah. I'm really hoping that we can get to this by the end of the week. I'm really hoping that we can just meet the inner Empress of ourselves, find real ease and love, not even joy, because I'm tired of being hungry for joy. I hope that we can find love, unconditional love, truth within, and just the opportunity to lay back in the sun and find gratitude in being able to feel, and in being able to feel everything, even the pain. At some point the King of Cups was underneath the deck, so we do have more pain to feel through. The Seven of Swords speaks of a situation that requires ingenuity, subtlety, and firm resolve, putting curiosity to good use, intent, daring. There are unseen forces at work that need to be taken into account, a psychological puzzle that requires concentration and dedication if you are to solve it. And I think maybe the concentration and dedication can be found through meditation and through rest. Through rest. I like the contrast of these two cards. Both figures stand in isolation, and both figures stand looking out. This is what we need to leave behind, though. Stop being burdened. I also appreciate how the postures are also different. This person's back is so bent, but in this one, back straight. The figure seems very proud, standing tall, ready. We're ready. I'm only worthy of receiving if I've worked hard enough. We forget that receiving can also be a natural part of life. Exactly. Exactly. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Exactly. It's the receiving. The receiving. And I'm remembering that this card also spoke of needing, of taking on so much, and that of taking on so much and needing to learn how to ask for help. And then the next part, asking for help, it's difficult on its own. Then we need to actually be open to receive the help. I'm stuck though in this weird in between where I don't even know who to ask help from. I don't even know what kind of help I need. So I suppose then what we can do is ask for clarity. We can ask for light to be shown on these psychological things that we're working through. These psychological hidden factors of our inability to release control and surrender. We need to be shown more of why it is that it is so difficult for us to surrender. Why are we so stubborn? Why are we so stubborn? Mother wounds as well. But not really mother wounds, wounds from our mother that she didn't have the time to clear out. Because I know that my mom's in this position right now as well. And she's very hard at asking for help and she hates receiving. She hates it. She'll sooner tell you that she doesn't want any gifts rather than admitting that she wants some and then be disappointed in the rejection or in the gifts not being adequate enough to her taste. Um, so yeah, as I'd mentioned, the contrast in these two cards and how we need to move from this to eventually arrive to this. We've got a lot of mental gunk to work through. And I think the best way to work through all of that is to just leave it. Exit the brain, trust the heart and the body to lead our thoughts to this. Trust our hearts and our wombs. I don't know if I mentioned this in previous readings, but I was specifically guided to tap into my womb. So I now I literally try to move my brain and it like I physically imagine putting my brain and my ears and my eyes and everything on my womb space and just letting that moment play itself out. I try to do it on a daily basis. It's been very helpful, extremely helpful, especially to process all of the emotions and the heaviness and the grief. And then I think one last card. And then, yeah, of course, right. The Emperor. Yes. And then the One of Cups and the Seven of Rods beneath. Really awesome. Really, really lovely. And I love the image of the One of Cups. I love the water flowing and the fire and the sun. I love how busy this card is and how all the elements of busyness point towards it feels very spiritual to me. I'm holding it up long enough for you to be able to tap into it too. So that you can come up with your own channelings as to what this may mean for you. It feels very personal. It doesn't feel like it would be helpful to read the interpretation of this. You can just interpret it from what you see. But I see a lot of hope. I feel a lot of hope. Especially coming to the end now, pulling these last two cards, I feel a lot of hope and a lot of gratitude for the work that we're doing. I can't stress enough as well how awesome it is that the postures is you know, it really seems like this is where we are with our stubbornness to release control and not have faith and not give our Lozis a chance to show up for us, our ancestors, our spirits, our world, everything about our world. This is where it feels like we are. In every other upright card, anyway. Um, in every other upright card, we're standing up straight. You know, we've got this. We've got a straight back. We've got good posture. We're getting to the other side, and our hearts will lead us there. Exactly, Zinande. Exactly. You should do your own kinds of these things. I haven't fully tuned into the range of offerings that you have, but you've really carried us. You had this reading on your back. Thank you for every single word that you've contributed. You've just been spitting. We really are. And our hearts will lead us there. So if you can start every day with a heart-centered meditation. And I really think that these things could be led by ourselves. Like I know that there are some things available on YouTube and stuff, but I think that I would love for all of us to do this ourselves with our own intelligence, leading us and putting our awareness into our heart and just sitting there for a moment, just putting a timer, sitting in front of a candle and putting our brains and our breath inside our hearts and just letting our hearts lead, like literally. Then you open your eyes and you ask yourself the question, what do you feel like doing now? And then let your heart lead you to the next action, even if it's as simple as lying down, because sometimes it's going to be that. It's going to be that you just need to lie down. And it's really cool that we have both of these cards here. I wonder what oh, right. Uh yeah, I actually just think it's part of that. Just I think that I think that we're trying to find a balance. We have to tap into this energy, but in order to tap into this, we have to use this energy. So we have to be very aggressive about this, about being in our soft era, and about being feminine, feminine, feeling tender, about being round versus being square. Hmm, that's interesting. You should keep trying, or keep looking into why it is that it didn't work. Why it wouldn't allow you? Hmm, maybe, I don't know. I think, or maybe it has something to do with needing to be more active. Maybe just continue posting excessively, and then eventually it'll let you go live. Um, but yes, we have to. I think yes, embody this energy. Take charge of our take charge of this. Arrive to this using masculine energy. So it's the balance between those two things, which is very difficult, and it's very interesting that it seems to be mostly women who are faced with the layers of how to understand this. Men men are I don't know what I don't know what's wrong with I don't know what's wrong with men right now, especially the straight ones. I don't know what's going on with them, but yeah, it's mostly, it seems to mostly be the feminine energy, the innately feminine energy that's tasked with the activity of needing to balance this within us. So I'm getting maybe more creation, way more art, way more art. Mm. Pearl, if you're still present here, I hope you got into the fashion thing that you'd wanted to do last week. You know, more creating, just more, but not in a business sense, not in a creating business so that you can make profit sense. Like, not at all anything to do with capitalism, just in terms of needing to tap into your inner child, your inner, your inner light, something that makes you excited. I'll actually read into that One of Cups. Oh, yes, and the King of Rods. The King of Rods. So all of this to say, like, how he's looking so intently at this ball, and then seeing this ball as this cup. It's like this is the energy we have to embody. This is pretty much the energy we have to embody in order to get to this. It's going to take a lot of spiritual focus, but I don't think it's spiritual focus that we're new to. And I do think it's going to be very easy for us, actually. Especially since it's an ease that we're being invited to. Like, it does feel like this is going to be an easier week, which I'm very much looking forward to. So the One of Cups speaks of love, spiritual connection. Interesting. And I didn't want to mention it because, yeah, I don't know. Love readings, man. Love readings. But with the Emperor and the Empress falling out like this, there is a kind of, like, I don't know, maybe the love won't be, I don't know. It's actually, honestly, it's not likely that the love will be romantic, mostly because I'm feeling all of the psychological things that we've got going on. We've got a lot of psychological layers, but I am getting that we are getting closer to that feeling of love, to the feeling of love as it is felt in pure romantic connection, and it will be felt within. Yeah, I feel you, Pearl. Um, I feel you in the difference in the way that you're showing up and where you're typing your messages, so I can feel that that's where you're at right now. Let the week play out. That's all I've got. Look into candle gazing if you're someone who struggles with shutting out the noise. Absolutely. That yes is another thing that really helped for me this week as well. Candle gazing is extremely helpful. Shockingly so because um yeah, exactly, transmute it. You're right. You're right. Yeah, it's weird how candle gazing helps because all you're doing is looking into a candle and breathing, but the calm, it's unmatched. And pretty cool, the candle. So actually that's really on point. That's really on point. She does it again. She does it again. Yes. Love, spiritual connection, opening to the full potential of love, its promise and force. Not just in romance, but in the way that it can show up um when these two energies uh come into union within, which can only come with a certain kind of release of with a balance between control and a lack of control. Like, hey, there's a balancing act that we need to do here, but we need to also have faith that it's going to happen. Um, and I think it's going to happen on its own. It's going to happen on its own. We can trust that. Burgeoning potential. Feelings and emotions that need to be explored and safely expressed. Yes, for example, through art, writing, song, or dance. Absolutely. Unity, love, renewal. Yeah, unity. Unity. I love that these two cards showed up. We are really balancing and uniting the feminine and the masculine energies within us, whether or not, regardless of your gender. So this is great news. Um, it is, yeah. So okay, art expression, and if you are on a level of feeling so sad that you can't even move, you have to move. So try to put on your favorite song, and even if you sway really slowly to it. What happens with me when I'm feeling too sad to move and I put on a song that I sway slowly to, I definitely start crying. So there's a lot of tears that are on the verge of needing to fall out. And then, yeah, and then the Tower and interesting, the Two of Cups. Okay. The Lovers. Okay, this might be an unexpectedly romantic week, but I really wonder from how and from where. But I don't want to I don't want to get into that because I'm really I'm not on that romance tip right now. There's just too much internal healing to move through. I'm not into it, but we're making it. We're doing it. And yeah, a very special congratulations to us for making it through this weekend. As I'd mentioned in the beginning of the reading, there's a lot of grief in the air, a lot of real sadness and real darkness and shadows and gunk that may push us um, to limits of feeling things that we thought we were done feeling, or that we worry that if we feel all the way through might actually push us to do things that are totally out of character, or that I don't want to outrightly say that may make us want to like actually die. Um, although that is what I'm saying has been a result of the weight of this week and the shadows of this week, that it pushes us to these deaths. Yeah, I can't stress enough how every time we feel it, we are being acknowledged for it. It's not like there are people actually saying the words that I share via Twitter where it's like, no, don't kill yourself, da da da. Funnily enough, I think the message of not doing that is a very ego-based thing. I don't think anyone on the other side actually goes out of their way to say, no, don't die. No, don't do it. I always get a real loving support of, we understand why you feel like doing that. We understand why it's something you would want to do. And that's where it ends. So that's something I relay to anyone watching, and to even me in this moment. Um yeah. Hey. Um I was actually gonna finish off just now, but I'm really glad to see your name in the chat. I hope you've been good. Um I can't remember what the sentence was that I left on, but just to acknowledge, the weight of everything and the heaviness and the grief. It's so serious right now. And yeah, that's all. That's all I've got, actually. Just acknowledge that it's there and that it's real. It's very Pisces, very heavy. But as Ananda said earlier, we're getting to the other side. There is another side. And it will come this week. I really do think so. I really do think it's going to come. And if the actual manifestation of that success doesn't come, then the inner clarity definitely will. Definitely. 100% it will. Absolutely. The spiritual clarity. But we really have to surrender, and we really have to give it to God and give it to our ancestors. And if you are pushed to that limit, swear at them respectfully, I guess. But like, be angry, be angry. Be angry at how we're being pushed to this point of surrender that we don't know how to embody. Be angry that we are alive in a time that is with so much uncertainty that no one has ever seen before, that no one can guide us through but unseen forces. That's actually a yes. Those are the words that I couldn't find earlier. I get very, very angry about the fact that the most reliable source that I have right now has no mouth, no face, no actual physical incarnation of something that I can see and say, okay, thank God. I can't see this thing. I can't see it. I get very upset about that, especially in these times of grief. I get extremely pissed at the lack of control, at the way that I have to surrender, and at how vulnerable that makes me, and how it makes me feel like a child when I'm not a child anymore, and nothing in my reality points to the fact that I can be a child. We're acknowledged for all of that. Be more angry about it. Be so angry that you explode and you cry. Be so angry that this happens. Really take it to the top and let it happen. And fall to your knees. And I don't know if this counts for anything, but actually Zinande was the one who answered a few readings ago about how it helps to do at night. It's very dramatic, but it really feels like another kind of release when you light your candle and you just let it out, and it's dark and there's nothing and you're crying and it's dramatic. It's just, it's very helpful. It really, it feels like a washing, feels like a cleansing. That's all I have. Just going to take one last look at everything. It's crazy how the things that we're dealing with, this is bigger than therapy. This is bigger than Western therapy. It's bigger than a quick session. Yeah. No more trying to be strong. No more trying to be strong. The only strength that you should be using is in your ability to be soft. So be strong and convicted in how you cannot be strong anymore. Be strong and convicted in your exhaustion and in your anger and in being exhausted and being pissed off about it. We need to be more honest about ourselves. I mean, with ourselves about that. Okay. Thank you so much. This is the longest I think I've ever. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your presence and for being alive and for doing this work alongside me. I know that like when I have moments of yes, accept and surrender. Yes, when I have moments of my periods of isolation, I don't see. I know that whole line of like you're not alone and whatever, but sometimes it really does weigh on me that realistically speaking, I feel so alone. I feel so alone that this statement of you're not alone just doesn't ring true for me. But chances are you're with me, so I'm really, really, really grateful. And I'm very excited for us to see the other side of this. We're gonna have we're gonna have a lighter week than last week for sure. It will be lighter and it will get better. And we will see the other side of this. Thank you.